with hashtags like #FightScrappy and #PrayForScrappy taking over Instagram and Twitter. She muttered prayers to herself, but she knew deep down that faith alone would not save him at this point. We all watched, prayed, and hoped for a miracle, but on the inside, things were different. The doctors had just delivered devastating news. His friends, fellow artists, and even those who had previously argued with him sent heartfelt messages asking their followers to remember him. "But just yesterday, you said he was improving," Bambi said, her voice trembling as she asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. Mitchell had just interrupted with the most recent test results, which were unexpected. Scrappy's liver condition had gotten worse, his oxygen levels had dropped again, and his kidneys were barely surviving. He could feel the strain mounting on his already troubled heart. Dr. Mitchell took a deep breath, sadness gleaming in his eyes. How did this happen? How could it have changed so quickly? Sometimes the body will give false indications of recuperation. It might not be predicted all the time. Even though his organs had improved somewhat, issues have recently surfaced. His body is battling, but it is not enough. Mama D responded incredulously and angrily. "What do you mean? It's not enough? You're telling me that you're at your limit? How should we proceed?" Dr. Mitchell hesitated, his expression darkening. "Even though we're doing everything we can, we may need to take more serious measures because his condition is growing worse. If he doesn't stabilize in the next 24 hours, we may have to consider emergency dialysis or perhaps a transplant. And if his heart continues to fail, we may have to put him on life support." "No!" Bambi began sobbing hysterically as her voice cracked with raw anguish. Mama D stepped up, her protective instincts taking over, saying, "My son has been through too much to give up now. You can't do that. He is a combative individual. This is not how Scrappy is going to die. He's not going anywhere. We will fight. We have to." Dr. Mitchell nodded gravely at the audience. As the doctor left the room, the quiet between Bambi and Mama D grew more intense. "We're doing everything we can. The next 24 hours are crucial. We have to be prepared for anything." The situation was weighing heavily on them, and neither of them knew what to say. Fans continued to send encouraging messages, but the tone had shifted as news outlets carried stories with headlines like, "Doctors fear Scrappy's life is on the line," and "Lil Scrappy's condition worsens. Family desperate." Recovery was no longer the focus. They both knew that time was running out and that their only options were to wait and pray. The media circus outside continued to intensify as reporters frantically sought out any information as paparazzi cameras flashed outside the hospital. Now it was a question of survival. Bambi was at her breaking point. She stood up and said resolutely, "Everyone must be called. As many prayers as possible are needed. We have to fight. This is not the moment to leave him." In spite of her own emotional difficulties, Mama D nodded in accord. "We're doing more than just praying. We are fighting. We won't leave him." Bambi pulled out her phone and called her family and close friends. Despite the seeming lack of hope, she had faith that Scrappy's spirit would live on via his loved ones. And that love, those prayers, had to be enough. It had to be. There was too much tension in the room. The buzzes and beats of the equipment around Scrappy reminded him of his vulnerability all the time. Bambi's hand clenched around his each time the machine sounded. She could not let go. Not at this moment. Not when he needed her the most. Then the miraculous happened. Scrappy's fingers twitched. It was hardly noticeable, a tiny movement that could have gone unnoticed. But to Bambi, it was everything. She leaned closer, gasping, her heart pounding in her chest. Hard. Her voice was hopeful as she muttered. Scrappy's eyes flickered open and closed, unable to focus. His voice was barely audible, but it was enough. "Bam?" He breathed heavily as he whispered. Bambi cried. Her heart swelled with relief. "I'm here, baby, right here." She sobbed violently and kissed him on the forehead. Mama D knelt by her son and wiped away her own tears, saying, "Don't worry. You'll be fine. Just take a nap. You scared the hell out of us, boy." Scrappy's lips formed a tiny smile. "I stay here." The room emitted a collective sigh of relief, but Dr. Mitchell remained at the doorway, skeptical, and stepped forward, his face grave, saying, "Scrappy, you have to keep fighting for us." Even though Scrappy was fatigued, he mumbled, "I understand you," and said, "Everything will be decided in the next 24 hours. But just as the tiniest glimmer of optimism was beginning to emerge, a series of strident beeps, louder than before, sounded from the machines. As Scrappy's body tightened, his chest rose and fell in rapid, uneven breaths. The medical staff rushed into the room, their faces pallid, to try to stabilize him. "His pulse is beating." Fear pierced Dr. Mitchell's voice as he screamed. Nurses flooded the room, altering devices, injecting medications, and working together with a sense of urgency that only came with life or death situations. "We must move quickly." Bambi felt sick to her stomach. "What's happening?" Her voice broke as she sobbed, and young Jock, standing in the corner, could no longer control his emotions. "Do something." His voice trembled with fear as he screamed. In a matter of seconds, hours went by. Everyone prayed for the heart monitor to stabilize while they kept their eyes on it. After what felt like an age, the beeping eventually stopped. The doctors all exhaled collectively, their faces gloomy but relieved. Dr. Mitchell looked at Bambi and Mama D. "We have stabilized him for the time being, but this is just the beginning. He's in critical condition, so we have to be ready for anything." Bambi collapsed onto a chair with her head in her hands. "I can't allow him to leave. I can't." Mama D knelt beside her and took her hands in hers. "He won't be lost. We are going to fight. We'll make sure he gets past this." The battle was far from over. It was only beginning. This is not just another update, it's a fight for Lil Scrappy's life. For the next 24 hours, every prayer counts. If you believe that support is powerful, please let the world know by leaving a comment below. Let's help Scrappy and his family through this very difficult period. For the latest updates on this shocking situation, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll keep you informed at every stage of the narrative. Stay informed, stay in contact, and never forget Scrappy. With his hands clasped together, he took a deep breath and looked between Bambi and Mama D, understanding how much was at stake because he had seen the public's outpouring of love and the fans' passionate requests. "We need to talk," he said, in a firmer but softer tone than usual, and Bambi's eyes begged as her head. "What is it? What's happening?" Dr. Mitchell sighed deeply and raked his fingers through his graying hair. "Scrappy's latest test results have come back, and they don't look good. Something is wrong. Lil Scrappy was supposed to be improving, but now?" The physicians just delivered the devastating news. His latest test results are not excellent, worse than anyone had expected. Suddenly, things are different. In the hospital room, there is tension. Machines beep urgently, doctors talk softly, and Scrappy's family. They're terrified. Mama D grips her phone, trying to hold back her tears. Bambi is looking at the doctor, standing still, her hands shaking, and she is waiting for answers. But the worst part, the doctors don't have any. No one knows why Scrappy's health is deteriorating so quickly. His pulse rate is erratic, his respiration is poor, and the medical personnel are unsure of what to do. His family's only option at this point is to pray. Will Scrappy be successful? Or is something far more dire on the horizon? Watch as we break down everything, including the shocking details of his test findings, the emotional reactions of his family, and the doctor's last-ditch attempts to save his life. The update that no one expected was this one. The atmosphere of the hospital was tense, and the intensive care unit was filled with a stifling mixture of antiseptic and fear. The constant beep of the monitors filled the room, a somber reminder that every second mattered. Lil Scrappy lay motionless in the hospital bed, his chest hardly rising and falling under the weight of the equipment holding him steady. Once vibrant and full of life, the rapper was now a fragile individual caught in a life-or-death situation. His breathing was labored, His ordinarily assured face was pale, and his condition was deteriorating every second. Bambi sat next to him, trembling as she held his hand. Her normally immaculately manicured nails had chipped due to the tension of the past several days. Her eyes were swollen from constant crying, and her voice was raspy from whispering pleas that seemed to go unanswered. "You promised me that you wouldn't leave me," she said, pressing her fingers to his cheek in the hopes that he would move. "Scrappy, baby, please, you have to fight." Even though she seemed to be holding herself together with her arms crossed tightly, her occasional sniffle showed her broken heart, and she rocked slightly on her feet and muttered to herself, "Lord, don't take my son." Mama D, the fierce matriarch who had always been a rock, stood near the door and watched with lustrous eyes, but all she could do was watch helplessly after fighting for her son all her life and shielding him from the outside world. Not in this way. Even though he had previously delivered bad news, this case made him feel different. The door creaked open, and the lead physician, Dr. Mitchell, entered the room. His normally calm and collected countenance was suddenly etched with concern and fatigue. Everyone felt as though a weight had been placed on them as a thick silence descended upon the room. Mama D's hands clenched into fists as she took a sharp breath. "How awful." The doctor hesitated, then said, "We have been closely monitoring his heart, and there are signs that the strain is getting worse. His liver function has significantly deteriorated. His oxygen levels have dropped again, and his kidneys are under a lot of stress." Bambi shook her head in disbelief. "However, you said yesterday that he was improving. How could that have happened so fast?" Dr. Mitchell sighed sympathetically. "That is the unpredictable nature of circumstances like his. Sometimes the body shows indications of recuperation before unanticipated problems arise. It's a battle, and right now it's getting harder." With tears streaming down her cheeks, Bambi gripped Scrappy's hand tighter. "But what does this mean? What are your thoughts? The idea that you're idle?" Dr. Mitchell's expression darkened. "We're doing everything we can. However, if his condition doesn't improve the following day, we may need to consider more serious measures." "Like what?" Mama D's voice was sharp, her maternal instincts screaming to the surface. The doctor hesitated, then said, "Dialysis in an emergency, a potential transplant if things go worse, and we may need to consider putting him on life support if his heart continues to fail." "No!" Bambi cried out in a raw voice, filled with dread and grief. Mama D took charge, her protective instincts taking over, and she remarked, her voice shaking but firm, "My son has